What if companies had to pay to pollute our Earth? Imagine a world in which every company, regardless of size or industry, was held directly accountable for the environmental consequences of its operations. From the moment a factory emits even a wisp of smoke or a plastic wrapper is discarded by a fast food chain, a precise calculation determines the financial cost associated with that pollution. No more unrestricted dumping of emissions or casual disregard for environmental harm. Each act of pollution is meticulously tracked and billed back to the polluter. In such a reality, the simple act of doing business is irrevocably changed, and the world embarks on a transformative journey to reconcile industry with the health of our planet. At the heart of this hypothetical landscape is a clear, unyielding principle: the polluter pays. This concept, known in environmental policy as the polluter pays principle, has long guided discussions and limited legislation. However, in most of the world as it operates today, many companies externalize the costs of pollution, letting society, taxpayers, and ecosystems bear the burden. But what if we demanded that businesses directly compensate for every ton of carbon released, every barrel of toxic waste, and every drop of oil that finds its way into our oceans? What would industries look like under these conditions? How would governments, consumers, and the market itself adapt? To answer these questions, let's embark on an exploration of this paradigm shift, its immediate ripples, long-term impact, and the profound transformations it would set in motion. At first glance, implementing a pay-to-pollute system seems straightforward. Assess the environmental harm caused by each polluting activity, assign a monetary value, and charge the responsible party. In practice, this means companies would face fees for greenhouse gas emissions, water contamination, land degradation, plastic disposal, habitat destruction, and more. Every aspect, from smokestack emissions to chemical discharges, becomes a ledger entry and a line item expense on the corporate balance sheet. The first-order effect occurs in boardrooms and on the assembly lines. Suddenly, pollution is no longer a distant, out-of-sight, out-of-mind eventuality. It is a direct expense reported alongside raw materials, labor costs, and overhead. CFOs scrutinize budgets and see a new column: environmental emission fees, projected to rise as production, and thus pollution, increases. For energy-intensive sectors, think coal-fired power plants, steel mills, cement manufacturers, the transition is both dramatic and urgent. Plants that once operated on razor-thin profit margins due to cheap labor and resources are now pressed to reevaluate every process. A factory's monthly pollution charge could easily outpace labor costs or even raw materials, upending old calculations and eroding the economic advantage of the dirtiest technologies. As companies scramble to adapt, innovation blooms. What had been an ethical imperative, reducing emissions, reusing materials, replenishing resources, becomes a matter of survival. Executives and engineers are newly incentivized to rethink everything, from energy sources and supply chains to product design and disposal protocols. Renewable energy becomes not only a moral good, but also a financial imperative. Brands that previously hesitated to invest in solar panels, electric vehicle fleets, or energy-efficient lighting systems now make the leap, not out of altruism, but necessity. A textile manufacturer, facing high pollution fees for chemical runoff and water waste, might overhaul its dye processes, invest in advanced water recycling technologies, and work with suppliers to source eco-friendly materials. Food companies could swap single-use plastics for biodegradable alternatives or invent reusable packaging systems to stem the flow of pollutants and reduce costs. Tech giants, mindful of enormous energy draws at data centers, would move more swiftly toward carbon-neutral operations, driven by the pinch of pollution costs. Simultaneously, green entrepreneurship thrives. Because pollution-resistant innovations now offer direct economic benefits, new startups emerge with solutions for cleaner manufacturing, waste reclamation, and pollution monitoring. These companies race to become indispensable service providers, aiding larger firms in their transition. As competition grows around pollution reduction, patents soar, supply chains realign, and new job markets emerge for scientists, engineers, and analysts focused solely on minimizing environmental costs. None of this happens in a vacuum. Governments, responsible for administering the pollution fee system, expand their capacities for monitoring, measuring, and enforcing. Advances in satellite imagery, sensors, and real-time telemetry are harnessed to track emissions from factories, trucks, and facilities worldwide. Data scientists create sophisticated models to account for every gram of CO2, every ounce of plastic, and every toxic spill. Regulatory agencies, once seen as cumbersome bureaucracy, become agile, tech-driven partners in environmental accountability. The money collected from pollution fees does not vanish into some nebulous government account. It's redirected with purpose. Some is funneled into infrastructure projects to remediate existing pollution, cleaning up rivers, restoring forests, reviving wetlands, and repairing urban environments scarred by years of neglect. A substantial portion funds research into cleaner technologies, providing grants and incentives for companies leading the green revolution. Environmental justice initiatives receive fresh support, helping to redress the harm historically borne by disadvantaged communities located near hazardous industrial zones. Consumers, too, find themselves on the front lines of this new world. As costs rise for resource-intensive goods, plastics, petroleum-based products, conventionally manufactured electronics, so does the visibility of sustainably made alternatives. Many are surprised to find that recycled and upcycled goods, once niche products with higher price tags, are now competitive, if not favorable, in the market. The difference? Polluters' payments drive up the cost of dirty goods, effectively leveling the playing field for green options. Shoppers become more conscious, reading new labeling standards that display the environmental cost paid by the manufacturer. Knowing a company has paid millions in pollution fees for a product, while an alternative paid little or nothing, weighs on consumer choices. Seals of approval and third-party certifications gain even greater prominence, steering business toward companies that innovate and invest in pollution reduction. An undeniable social shift underpins these economic changes. Polluting has been normalized and, for generations, tacitly accepted as the unavoidable price of progress. Now, with direct accountability woven into the cost structure of every company, pollution is stigmatized, even shameful. Just as tax evasion and fraud invoke public scorn, being labeled a super polluter becomes a major reputational risk. Shareholders, wary of their investments being drained by pollution penalties, press for greener performance. Company leaders adapt not only to save money, but to protect their brand, investor trust, and market standing. Some businesses struggle or even fail in this new reality. The most polluting industries, slow to change or unable to adapt, face extinction or massive restructuring. The coal industry, clinging to outdated extraction and energy generation methods, becomes uncompetitive as their pollution fees surge. Oil companies, aware that every spill and every emission is now a direct liability, accelerate their pivot toward cleaner technologies or risk collapse. For developing countries, the shift presents both a challenge and an opportunity. Many economies depend on export industries or natural resource extraction, where pollution had been a hidden cost. Wealthy nations, confronting their pollution bills, look more closely at the true ecological footprint of imports. This pressure stimulates global supply chains to green up and invest in more eco-friendly solutions from the ground up, lest pollution costs swallow profit margins. However, fairness is also a concern. Developing nations, having contributed less historically to global pollution but now keen to industrialize, argue for support in adapting to these new rules. Global bodies like the United Nations and the World Bank play a crucial role, helping to balance technology transfer, capacity building, and funding for green development in poorer regions. International carbon markets and cross-border pollution taxes become part of the equation, ensuring wealthy nations do not offload their pollution onto the world's least developed. With time, the cumulative effect of pay to pollute reverberates through society. The air in major cities grows cleaner, as industries invest in filters, carbon capture, or alternative processes. Rivers and lakes, once choked with runoff and waste, gradually recover as companies find reclamation cheaper than ongoing pollution fees. Wildlife corridors are restored. Plastic pollution diminishes in oceans, and biodiversity loss slows. Health improves as asthma, cancer, and other pollution-related illnesses decline, reducing the toll on overburdened healthcare systems. Cities themselves transform. Urban planners, armed with new budgets derived from pollution fees, rethink infrastructure to minimize emissions at every possible junction. Public transit is reimagined to run on clean energy, green spaces are expanded, and neighborhoods previously impacted by industrial blight are rehabilitated and set on a path to recovery. The psychological impact, too, is profound. Children grow up in environments where nature is not something to escape to, but something present in daily life, a cherished, shared inheritance protected by every layer of the economy. The narrative shifts away from the old dichotomy of jobs versus the environment to a recognition that responsible stewardship is not only possible, but profitable and essential. Society grows proud, not ashamed of its relationship with the earth. Let's look deeper into how the fee system is designed. In our imagined world, the fee for pollution isn't arbitrary. Governments and scientists work collaboratively to assign values that approximate the true social and ecological cost of each pollutant. Economists, climate scientists, ecologists, and public health experts pool their expertise to estimate, for example, the cost to society from a ton of atmospheric carbon, a kilogram of nitrogen runoff, or a gram of microplastic. The process is transparent and grounded in research, building trust in the system's fairness. Fees are dynamic, rising for pollutants with the most destructive impact and decreasing as technologies emerge to mitigate their effects. Companies are offered clear guidance, giving them the tools necessary to invest wisely and plan for the long term. Some are given grace periods or targeted subsidies for transitioning to cleaner methods, ensuring that small businesses and vulnerable sectors are not crushed. The emphasis is on driving real change while not eroding the economic fabric that sustains millions of jobs. Corporations, recognizing both the cost and reputation risks, race to disclose and reduce their pollution footprints. Corporate sustainability officers become key members of executive teams. Pollution reduction targets are embedded in performance reviews, compensation plans, and quarterly reporting. Environmental impact audits, once viewed as arcane obligations, become as routine as financial audits, scrutinized by investors, regulators, and customers alike. In the investment world, money flows in a new direction. Asset managers, pension funds, and high-net-worth individuals pivot toward companies with lower pollution fees and proven sustainability credentials. Green bonds, environmental, social, and governance, ESG funds, and impact investing gain unprecedented prominence. The market efficiently rewards the companies charting a cleaner path, while penalizing those dragging their feet. Academia and research institutions experience their own renaissance. With surges in funding from pollution fees, a new wave of scholarship focuses on everything from artificial photosynthesis and biodegradable electronics to ecological restoration and climate adaptation. Universities partner with industry and government, forming innovation hubs that accelerate the march toward a circular, waste-minimized economy. At the grassroots level, the pay-to-pollute model sparks civic involvement and creativity. Neighborhoods champion local cleanup campaigns, urban gardens, and recycling initiatives, knowing that cleaner communities translate to lower costs and higher quality of life. Activist groups, empowered by the transparency of pollution data, mobilize to hold laggards accountable, celebrate local heroes, and push for continued improvement. There are, of course, challenges and resistance. Some industries, particularly those tethered to fossil fuels or resource extraction, lobby fiercely to weaken, delay, or sidestep the new rules. Political debates erupt, with factions arguing about economic competitiveness, international trade, and national sovereignty. Some governments, concerned about the cost to large employers, attempt to carve out exceptions or craft workarounds. Yet, As public support for cleaner air, safer water, and a restored climate becomes overwhelming, it is these advocates for the status quo who appear out of step with the times, and there are unintended consequences to watch for. If pollution costs are simply passed along to consumers in the form of higher prices, will this reinforce inequality? Careful policy design is needed to provide targeted relief, subsidies, or green tax credits to lower-income households, ensuring that the benefits of cleaner air and water are shared by all. As the system matures, progress is not a straight line. Some companies innovate radically and leap ahead, while others lag. Global trade patterns shift, with cleaner, more efficient economies gaining a competitive edge. Scandals inevitably erupt as companies attempt to underreport pollution or sidestep fees, sparking new waves of enforcement and technological innovation in tracking and compliance. Ultimately, doing business in this new world is defined by a simple, inescapable reality. The price you pay reflects the true impact you have on the world around you. Pollution is no longer a free externality, but a cost of doing business, one to be minimized wherever possible. The economic landscape is altered forever, with profound and far-reaching benefits. Environmental quality rises, driven not by charity or government edict, but by a deep systemic reorientation of priorities across every sector. Health systems breathe easier, literally and figuratively, as air and water quality crises abate. Wild places, rivers, and coral reefs begin to recover. The conversation shifts from how to manage pollution to how quickly a society can phase it out or transform the world's waste into new raw materials. The lesson is powerful and enduring. When we align economic incentives with the health of the environment, the ingenuity, energy, and resources of business are harnessed for the common good. In the end, perhaps the greatest testament to a world where companies must pay to pollute is not in the profits preserved or the fees collected, but in the legacy left for generations yet to come. Children inherit skies cleared of old smog, forests standing tall, wildlife abundant, and oceans alive. The costs of pollution are no longer an invisible tax on their future, but a challenge their forebears dared to confront and overcome. A future like this begins not with sweeping idealism, but with a simple change, making those who profit from pollution finally pay its true price, setting the world on a path to heal, restore, and flourish. Thank you for watching the video. What do you think about today's topic? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like and share the video to support the channel. Thanks again, and see you in the next video.